a little bit different this morning with my morning routine. I have been trying to figure out a way to incorporate, just the things that I do on a daily basis as opposed to kind of coming up with a different way to approach things. Like, that's not working out for me. It keeps me kind of stuck, and in this, like, just still not moving forward with how I want to show up, especially online, because there's so much that I want to come on and talk to y'all about. So I was like, let me just combine. Oh, this came out so streaky. Let me just combine, and I need to get some more of these markers. I know that I don't like the way that looks, but we'll cover it up. Um, how can I combine the things that I do on a daily basis, right? And one of them is like what's also a part of my art practice is I don't like how streaky this one is. Let me see. We're just gonna roll with it. Um, Looking at reading the art news, because that's when I taught sociology. That was something that I did on a daily basis, was look at the news, and a lot of the times I would bring these things into my classroom with my students, and they really enjoyed that. Um, for a lot of different reasons. One, because we would be talking about things that were actually happening, and going on. So they really enjoyed that. The other thing was it kept me, in the loop about what my students, thought was important. So I wanted to come on and share with you all just some of the things that I have been like reading more on. And one of them was I did not know that Mickalene Thomas and her partner, one, were, hi there. Um, I didn't know that they were broken up. That's the first thing. I thought they were still married. But one of the things that broke over the weekend was, or really over the past week, was Mickalene Thomas, who is a black queer, pretty well known visual artist. Her and her partner, Raquel, and I can't pronounce, well, her ex partner, I can't pronounce the partner's last name, but it starts with a C. Um, Raquel came out and said that she was suing Mickalene for $10 million in damages for harassment and also like not being paid for her work. So Mickalene Thomas is an artist that primarily does like portraits, scenes of black women like in everyday life. And her ex partner is a model and also a curator herself. And I was reading up more on their relationship, and one of the things that I didn't realize was they met each other in 2002 initially. Nothing really happened between them. They met again in 2011 related to some work. And then fast forward to 2019 is when they get together. The article that I read, though, makes it seem like Mickalene and Raquel were married to different people at the time that they kind of met up again. And so they get married in 2019 and they break up in 2020. So I did not realize that their marriage, only lasted for that long because they started a business together called De Femme Noir. and they were supporting other like queer women of color in this business. It was a collective that they kind of put together, and so one of the things that Raquel says is that she would negotiate deals for Mickalene, and so she felt one of the aspects of this lawsuit is that she feels like she wasn't paid, that there's like back what do you call it, wages due, right? Hi there. And so I thought that that was really interesting. The other thing that she says in the complaint too is that Mickalene is harassing her. And so I found that to be really interesting too, because Raquel apparently is married to somebody else already. She's married to a mental health practitioner, and it looks like they've been married since like 2024 or something like that. Um, which I also thought was kind of interesting. But Raquel is on the new season of Real Housewives of New York. And so in the article, it mentions that. And so I'm wondering if she talks about it at all, if she mentions this, um, like what she's going through with the lawsuit at all in this on the show. So now I kind of want to watch Real Housewives of New York just to see if she talks about um, this lawsuit and her experiences with Mickalene. The one thing that I can say about Black queer relationships, especially those where either one of the people or two of the people have like some type of social capital, and social capital meaning they have connections that could be financial, but it could also just be social capital, meaning like, they have a big platform. People know them, you know, because of the work that they do for whatever reason, right? In lesbian relationships where there is social capital, it is really difficult to know, kind of the dynamics of the relationship, right? Um, and please know that I'm speaking from experience related to that. Um, there is no telling, like what their dynamics were like behind the scenes, given that they were only together, it looks like for only about a year. I mean, that kind of gives an idea of um like what not necessarily what happened in their relationship, but they had a very short relationship. It looks like their working relationship lasted longer than their actual marriage, and that's another thing about being in relationships with other Black queer women too, is that a lot of times there are boundaries that are blurred in those relationships related to work, you know. Um, Now, Raquel definitely had her own things going on. She was well known because of the work that she did related to being a curator, and it's just kind of interesting to see how things have unfolded with that. I'm going to keep up with watching like art news and what is the hyper allergic to see if they post anything else about uh the lawsuit, and then I'll give y'all an update when I see something else about that. But I was like, oh, I just did not know all of the intricacies and the drama of that. Like I said, because I didn't even realize they weren't together. One of the things that I did a video on, it was I believe it had to be last year. I don't know if y'all remember when Swiss Beats and Alicia Keys made their art collection open to the public. They did exhibition at the, was it at MoMA in New York? I think it was at MoMA in New York. And Mickalene Thomas was one of the folks that were there. Um, she was one of the artists that was there, for that premiere, for that opening of Swiss Beats and Alicia Keys public viewings. Well, their world exhibition, or their tour of their private art collection, and Spike Lee was there. There were quite a few other like really well known people that were there. But the issue with that was this was at the height of like Palestinian protests. And so there was a Palestinian protest that was going on during this art exhibition opening, and Mickalene Thomas was there. And I did not read anything about any of the artists that were present during that time, like saying anything related to supporting Palestine. So that made me start to like think a little bit more about Mickalene Thomas and her politics, because I follow her work. I love her piece. It's called Tall Six Footer, FOTTA, Tall Six Footer. That is like my favorite piece of hers. I love her style. It's very it's like collage pieces kind of put together. But she does more like, it's more mixed media, but it looks like collage to me. And I love it because she centers black women in everyday life. So there's a lot of like living room scenes, scenes in like bedrooms and things like that. And so I love that. I love the detail of it. But so yeah, to see like how that kind of play how it's kind of playing out right now, I think is super super interesting. And then I will definitely continue to follow like what's going on with that. The next thing that I found kind of interesting, um the next thing that I read up on that was heartbreaking was in Florida. I don't know if y'all remember the Post nightclub shooting that happened in 2016. 49 queer and trans folks, mostly Latine, were shot while they were at this nightclub, and it was a hate crime. And so since then there have been, different memorials and ways to remember what happened at Pulse. um did y'all know that the memorial for Pulse nightclub was removed? On the thumbnail for this video you can see the difference in the sidewalk. It goes from, you know, some of the queer and trans flag colors to just this drab, concrete colored sidewalk. And so in the article, folks were talking about, they're upset and disgust about erasing, a memorial, something that really devastated the community. And we've seen this, kind of happen and pop up. Um, Thank you. We've seen this happen and kind of pop up, across the U.S. now, right? Where different memorials, different ways to acknowledge and remember things that have harmed, certain communities and populations. Now with this administration, there's an attempt to erase that, right? And so like what does that mean for our community? What does that mean related to how we can remember and how we do that in public. I think there's something to be said for the arts and culture community on as it relates to public art. Um, and when folks put money into different initiatives and then the government or local community folks kind of step in and erase that, right? What does that mean? What does that mean for the community? Do we just let things be the way that they are, or do we figure out another way to bring it back? Remember, remember, folks, remember these tragedies that have happened, right? Because if you don't remember it, how do you ensure that it doesn't happen again? Okay. So that was the other thing that I saw. The last thing that I wanted to come on and chat with y'all about, and I appreciate y'all so much. This is my morning routine. I usually sit down and like sketch and draw. And so like I said at the top of this video, I've been trying to figure out like how to incorporate the things that are just natural, the things that I do on a daily basis, as opposed to trying to come up with a different routine, because it's causing me to not come on here and chat with y'all because I just feel behind. Um I feel like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but that's not true. It's just I've created these rules in my head about how it's supposed to come out, and it's creating a barrier for me. So I was like, let me just get on here this morning. It may not come out correctly. It may not be as organized as I would like it to be, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to just pop on here. The last thing that I wanted to check in with y'all about was like 2 weeks ago, and y'all can still see this on my page. I talked about the artist Amy Sherrill and how she pulled out of the one of the stops on her exhibition tour that's going on right now. She pulled out of the Smithsonian because they wanted her to change her piece that talks about that highlights trans identity. And everything that's been going on with the Smithsonian in the news since then, it just keeps me thinking about Amy Sherrill and her decision to do that. Um, the other thing that the Smithsonian conversation has also kept me thinking about is a video that I did last year. Y'all may not know this, but I'm originally from Chicago, and yeah, in a little bit. I'm originally from Chicago, and so I keep my eye on what's going on in Chicago. Like, even though I haven't officially lived there in quite a few years, because right now I'm in North Carolina. Last year, one of the museums got renamed. The Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago got renamed to the Kenneth C. Griffin Museum of Science and Industry. And Mr. Griffin is a white billionaire. And in the video that I did this kind of check in, it was really a prediction about the different monuments that had been taken down during COVID, that we were going to see a reclamation of these different monuments and institutions. And I saw in let's see, it was either Art News or Hyperallergic or Complex or something like that. They were talking about a North Carolina monument that is currently going through a lawsuit right now. The monument sits outside of a courthouse, and the issue with this particular monument is that at the bottom of it, there is an inscription that says, "In appreciation of our faithful slaves." And the townspeople of that particular city want this monument removed. In the lawsuit, it says that um, most courthouses have monuments outside of them, but in the United States, this is the only monument that says that inscription, "In appreciation of our faithful slaves." And so it's moving forward. At the end of the article, it mentions that they're currently going through discovery right now related to that. So that's going to be something else, another lawsuit that I follow. I am very interested in art law, especially related to art censorship. So I thought that, again, especially being from living here in North Carolina now, I thought that that was a really interesting one to keep following. And again, also connects to this piece about reclamation of Smithsonian, I'm sorry, reclamation of these monuments, like what's going on with the Smithsonian, and the erasure of certain history. I'm gonna link that video that I did a year ago. It's on my TikTok, but I'll link it here. Um, let's see. I was looking at my notes to make sure I went through everything that I wanted to come on here and chat with y'all about. That is one thing that I miss about um, being in community in a certain way. Usually, I would have folks to talk about and gossip, with about this kind of art stuff and like how it's impacting. What am I looking for? I'm looking for a darker color. Um, Usually, I would have folks to come on to be in community with and just talk about some of these things. And then that's why I was like, let me just get on here and combine my routine with this, because maybe it'll be somebody or some people out there who are interested in this stuff too, or been watching this stuff too, or just want to talk about like art gossip. Your brother moving to North Carolina Thursday. Okay. Um, so yeah. What was I talking about? Oh, art, legal stuff. Very interested in art law and things that move to litigation for artists. I started getting into art censorship maybe like 2 years ago. There's an artist in California, and I didn't prepare any of this, so I don't remember all the names exactly, but I know the artist name. His name is OG Slick, and he's in California. I think the museum was the San Francisco Museum of Art, but I might be getting that wrong because, like I said, I didn't plan to come on here and tell y'all why I'm interested, how I got interested in art censorship. But OG Slick was opening. He had an exhibition at this museum in California. Like I said, I think it's the San Francisco Museum of Art, but that might be wrong. But his piece was called "The Three Little Pigs," and it was a depiction of the local police department. Again, if I'm right about San Francisco, then it was about the San Francisco Police Department. But in this painting, he depicted the local police department as the Three Little Pigs, and it got accepted into the exhibition. It was up, but the board members of that particular museum did not like that shit. Okay. They didn't like it. They wasn't gonna have it. And so they tried to get his piece removed from the museum. The other So that brought about a lawsuit. The other art kind of law case that got me interested in art censorship, 2 years, it was either 2 years ago or last year. I feel like it was 2 years ago. In Florida, in Miami, there was a mural put up memorializing a black person that had been murdered by the police. And the local city council um, attempted to remove the mural from a building. And so the artist filed a lawsuit for art censorship. And so since then, I have just been seeing, I have been really paying attention to when the government gets involved, government meaning like local government. And and more recently it's expanded out to federal. But when local government sues artists to censor them, especially when it is artwork that is related to talking about the police, um, and how local government will try to censor artists that, to try not to shine a light on what's happening locally. So yeah, that is my long-winded way of sharing with y'all. And just really quickly, because I plan to do a video on this at some point soon, because I have like quite a few stories that I've been following. And I just haven't posted about it, like I said, but I want to talk to y'all about it. Um, to go through these different legal cases that are specifically related to like art censorship. And then, like I said, the majority of them, like I'm seeing a theme of the ones that I really like to follow. And usually, right now, it's been local government that is trying to censor artists that are specifically highlighting misconduct, murders, brutality of the local police department. So, okay. Thanks for letting me nerd out. We'll see how this goes. Oh, I've been on here for 30 minutes. We'll see how this goes. But, like I said, I do these two things every day, sit down and sketch. I also, like I said, nerd out and read arts and culture news platforms. And so, yeah, I want to talk to y'all about it. So here we are.